Hey guys, this video is a video for Music Theory 2, and it is used to review and reintroduce the idea of intervals in music theory, okay? So intervals, guys, is a concept that's actually introduced and taught in Music Theory 1, and in Music Theory 2, we take it to the next level by figuring out if it is, a perfect fourth, or an augmented second, and stuff like that. We kind of add more specific terms, okay? But this video today is just meant to review what you're supposed to know from Theory 1, okay? So guys, the intervals in music are used to describe the distance between two notes, okay? So if I have an F and I have a C there, the interval would be describing how big of a gap it is from the F to the C, okay? So the first thing that we have to figure out is whether or not an interval is harmonic or melodic, okay? So if an interval is harmonic, all that really means, guys, is that the two notes are going to be written on top of each other, okay? So if an interval is harmonic, it means that both notes are played simultaneously, just like here. If you were to play this on the piano, you wouldn't play one of the notes before the other. You would play F and C at the exact same time, okay? Whereas if the intervals were considered to be melodic, they'd be played one after the other, okay? So that would be an example of a melodic interval. I'd be playing the first note F and then playing this note C after it, okay? An easy way to remember which one is which is when you're thinking of melodic, you should think of the word melody. And melodies, the way they work are just one note after another. Think about it. One singer can't sing two notes at the same time, right? They'd be singing one note and then they would sing the next note. So for melodic intervals, you're thinking of a melody. Whereas harmonic intervals, you can think of the word harmony. And in harmony, there are chords. And chords are when you have two or more notes being played at the same time, okay? So that's how I remember that. So the first thing you're going to want to make sure you can do is being able to identify notes as to whether or not they are intervals, as to whether or not they are harmonic or melodic. So let's take a look at some examples of those, okay? Where did I put it? Right there, okay. So I got my first interval right here. I can see that both notes are separated, so it looks like a melody, as in I would play one note and then play the other, so that means that is a melodic interval, okay? Literally just like it sounds, okay? This one, it looks like both notes are being played at the same time, much like a chord. A chord is used in harmony, so this is most likely a harmonic interval. Okay, you can hear both notes at the same time. Again, both notes are being played at the same time. It is considered harmonic. And both notes are separated. It is thought of more so like a melody. And they're played one after the other. Okay? So now that's done, let's go on to the next part, okay? So the next part is we need to figure out what our numbers are, okay? So I'm just gonna draw a random one. Let's do like G going up to B. Let's do an F going up to a D, and maybe an E going up to an E. And then let's do A staying on A, and then one more. Let's do D going up to G, okay? All right, so guys, the next thing we want to know after we've aware of something is harmonic or melodic or not is we want to figure out what the actual interval is. And it's actually really, really easy, guys. All you want to do is you want to take a look at your first note, okay, and figure out if that's on a line or a space. Whatever that is, that's going to be 1. Okay, so right now my G is 1. So G is my line, which means my next thing after that is the space, which would be A. That would be number 2, which means my last note here is B, which would be a number 3, okay? So the interval between G and B would be a third, okay? Let's try another one. So, again, same thing. We want to look at our bottom note first and call that 1, okay? So my F here is a 1. Of course, now it looks like 10. So F would be 1, G would be 2, A would be 3, B would be 4, C would be 5, which means D would be our 6th note, which means that this would be considered a 6th, okay? If we look over here, this one's going to be a little bit bigger. Our bottom note, again, is going to be number 1, so we have an E. So E would be 1, F would be 2, G would be 3, A would be 4, B would be 5, C would be 6, D would be 7, and 8 would be E. So this is an eighth, okay? Now the thing is, guys, is eighths are actually have a specific term, and they are called octaves, okay? So if you're doing an interval and you think that it's an eighth, don't write eighth, write octave, okay? Or you can write an O for octave, okay? Let's look at another interesting one right here. We have two notes that are exactly the same. It's A going to A. So A is 1, which means the other A is 1, okay? So we don't really call it a first, okay? That's not really the name for that. If something is on the one letter to the exact same letter, we're going to call that unison. Or we might also call that prime, okay? Either one is an acceptable answer, okay? I personally like unison better, but that's just me, okay? And let's look at one last one. This is a D, which is our first note, of course. So D would be 1, E would be 2, F would be 3, and G would be 4. This is a fourth, okay? So if we think we got that down, let's check some on musictheory.net and see how well we do, okay? So looking at this one here, my first note is D. That's going to be my 1. So I'm just going to count over here. D is 1. Oh, sorry. D is 1, E is 2, F is 3, G is 4, A is 5, B is 6, and this C is a 7. So sure enough, I'm going to click the 7th and see what it says. It's correct. All right, let's do another one. Okay, so again, I'm looking at my bottom note. And guys, the hard thing to remember is that the bottom note is always 1. If you count, going to the next thing as 1, then that's wrong. So C is 1. Which means our D space would be 2, which means E would be 3. Sure enough, if I hit 3, it should be correct. It is. Let's do one more. Okay, my bottom note here is B. Okay, so we have 1, C would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, if we remember, we don't call things eighths, we call them octaves. Of course, on here, it's going to want us to call it an eighth, but that's okay. So we're going to do that anyway. And I lied. One more, okay? Bottom note is G. Okay, bottom note is B, sorry. B is 1, C is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a sixth of some kind. Now, before I answer this, guys, there will be a lot of questions you have on your homework or quizzes and exams and stuff like that, where it will actually just give you one note, okay? And it'll ask you to write the interval above that note, okay? So they might give you this B and then ask you to write a sixth above that, okay? But they might also do the opposite of that. They might actually only give you the top note, and they might actually ask you to write in the bottom note, okay? So just to cover that now, to prevent any questions in the future, guys, all you really need to do is just do the same thing but backwards, okay? So you could technically start at the top note and work your way down. So this G would be 1, F would be 2, E would be 3, D would be 4, C would be 5, and then B would be 6, okay? It'd be a 6 going from here to there or going from there to here, okay? It's a reversible answer. So I'm going to click 6 to see what we got. Sure enough, that is correct. So yeah, again, guys, today we learned about identifying what are called generic intervals, okay? If an interval is considered generic, it just means that it's going by a number and nothing else. There's no other word in front of it like major or minor or perfect or augmented or diminished, okay? And again, this is all stuff you should have learned in Theory 1. So I think the two important things we need to remember from this is that an eighth, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, eighth is called an octave. And if your note is on the same exact note, so example, if we had this C right here going to a note right here that was also the exact same C, right there, that would be called a unison or a prime. Okay, so you could write a U for unison or a P for prime. Either one is fine. Okay. Hope this video helped you, and feel free to ask me questions in class. See ya.